Hey everyone, welcome to the activity on practicing rhetorical analysis. This is just how we're going to start. I just wanted to give you an activity to start using rhetoric, using this concept we're learning about, and start just practicing the early stages of doing rhetorical analysis, because this is something we're doing much more of this semester. So first, what is rhetorical analysis? Well, it's just a way of looking at a text. Maybe you've done literary analysis in the past where you look at a piece of literature and, use concepts from literary theory to break down what's happening. Well, we're using rhetorical theory to break down what's happening, and you've read a little bit of rhetorical theory now, so you're going to start using that to break down what's happening with a text. The text that we're using today is a magazine ad, but you can also use rhetorical theory to break down written things, articles, websites, visual texts, performances, all kinds of things. Okay. So how are we breaking things down when we're using rhetorical analysis? Essentially, we're breaking down the rhetorical situation. So we're looking at the author or the person who composed it. We're looking at the audience or who is supposed to read and view it. We're looking at the effects that this text should have or its purpose. And I like to think of purpose as how it should influence the beliefs, attitudes, and or behaviors of the audience. That's what helps me to kind of get that to be more concrete. And so basically, here's the key to rhetorical analysis. We're asking, what choices did the author make and what effects do those choices have on the audience? So to do this, you have to start by noticing details and asking questions. It's really as simple as that. And I think the way people get tripped up at first is they don't trust their observations about details because stuff doesn't feel important enough. And the key is just to find details of any kind and then sit with them long enough that you can make something more of them. And to do that, to make more of those details you've noticed, you have to ask some questions. So this activity is to help guide you in doing just that. So here is a big fat list. These are examples of the kinds of details that you might notice in a text. So content. What does it show? What doesn't it show? What does it talk about? What doesn't it talk about? You could notice details about the language style, word choices used, sentence complexity, tone or formality, the visual style as well, how things are laid out, what kinds of colors are used, what kind of images are included, how do things feel overall, the organization or, in this case, visual layout, sizing, where things are placed or ordered or group, how things are grouped together. And then we have these ideas from Aristotle, ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos being how someone presents themselves. So what is it that we're supposed to know about the composer? Logos, so that means, what kind of reasoning or logic is present. And pathos is about what kinds of emotions is the text trying to get its audience to feel. What sympathies does it try to play into, or values of the audience? Okay, so that's just a real quick rundown of this list. You're going to spend some more time with it because what I've done here, and you'll see a copy of this slide again in just a minute, but what I've done is I put that same list here on the left, and on the right we have our advertisement, okay? And so I'll give you a few examples just to help you, but I don't want to give away too much because I want to leave some room for you to talk about things that jump out to you. So here, we could think about just really, basics of what do we see? That goes back to content. What does it show? We see a person sitting in what looks like an airplane, for instance. You can see that he's eating and drinking something. What is he eating and drinking? And if you sit with it, you can find significance in that. For instance, what he's eating and drinking looks very different from anything I personally have eaten or drank on an airplane. And so why did the ad want to show us those things? And not the kind of things maybe that other people might more commonly eat on airplanes. We've got silverware here, things like that. You might notice things about the words, the language, because there's not a lot of words. And so we know that they probably were feeling really purposeful about the words they did include here. The way it's laid out, the colors used, the way this person is dressed. So again, I don't want to give away a ton because I want to leave you room, because what we're going to do next is, and I know, I'm sorry, my face jumps around. I just didn't want to cover the ad on those slides. So you'll see it jump again in a minute. What I want you to do is advance to the next slide, which is a copy of the one you just saw. I want you to make a list of at least 10 details you notice about this ad, and I want you to post them to Canvas. Okay, so take a minute to, pause before you advance to the next slide. Stop the recording. Don't click next yet, and use this list to help you. What are some 10 details you notice about this ad? All right, and then we will use those details to help us answer these next questions. So these next questions are designed to help us go a little deeper. So who created this? Sorry, it says post. It should be ad. I used to do this with an Instagram post. We're using an ad this time. So who created this ad? What does the ad depict? Who is the intended audience of this ad? What is the purpose? Let's see if I can quickly, I'm just going to make sure people are not confused. Ad. All right. What is the purpose? So this is what I want you to think about next. I think the content question can be helpful here. Thinking back to content, I think is a helpful way to answer these questions. Because if you look, you could do a little Googling if you didn't know, but Swiss Airlines is the company that made this ad. So we know that this is an airline company. And the ad depicts someone traveling, but it depicts a particular kind of person traveling in a particular way. Arguably, they're trying to make a vision of travel and what it could look like. And travel can look a lot of different ways. A budget airline like Spirit, think about what the advertisement for that might look like and what gets emphasized in that ad versus here we have this ad and it's depicting something very different. I've never flown Swiss Airlines, but in fact, most of us probably haven't, I would wager. So sometimes it's helpful to think about a contrast. So that might help you with thinking about these questions. What do you think Swiss Airlines wants us to know or think or believe or do about travel in general or travel with them on their airplane? So again, I want you to take a moment to pause and to write some answers to these questions. The next slide I'll bring you to this is a copy of the last one we just saw, and it's going to give you 4 questions about the ad. Again, I want you to take a moment, so pause before you move on. Let's do that. In fact, let me go to the next slide. Okay, so here I want you to take a minute to pause and answer these questions on the discussion board. All right, you're all done with the activity. I know that this is new for most of you, so if you're feeling unsure about things, we're going to practice more of this in class, and we'll in class review kind of what you came up with here on the discussion board and talk more about things. Thanks.